Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's great to see all of you as I just placed my Zoom and gallery view so I can see everyone that has their camera on. So I invite us to begin as we always do on Zoom with the heart tap as we greet each other, perhaps look around, up and down and all around, and see the members of our community celebrating Shabbat. So if you are currently eating Chinese food, we hope you'll place it in front of the camera. Oh, I see some thumbs up for Chinese food. I wish I were eating Chinese food. I should say that I am actually sitting in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, where there are many Jews in Great Barrington from Westchester and New York City and Boston. The problem is there's one Chinese restaurant, which was really crowded. So I am just going to have to eat my Chinese by looking at yours while we're celebrating Shabbat. So why did it become such a Jewish tradition to eat Chinese food on Christmas Eve? Well, one is that way back in the Lower East Side of New York 100 years ago, when many of our ancestors came to America, they lived in close proximity with people who had come from China, as the Lower East Side sits today. And they also didn't celebrate Christmas. So they wound up eating each other's cultural foods. And so many Jews would eat Chinese food. The other reason was it was great to eat Chinese food because most Chinese food does not have dairy in it. And so if you separate meat and milk, Chinese food was the perfect food to eat and maintain a kosher style diet. If you wanted to extend it even more, and you noticed that there was pork in your food and you didn't eat pork, it was chopped up so small that you thought you weren't even eating pork anyway. And it was often wrapped up in some sort of fried egg roll or something. So for all of these reasons, it became a Jewish norm. So we invite you to certainly eat your dinner while we're celebrating Shabbat, because tonight we are all on Zoom. And it's not because it's Christmas Eve as much as we wanted to give everyone at the temple time off, because we're largely dependent on a staff of people that are really maintaining the building year round and helping us with technology. And many of them do observe Christmas, and we wanted to make sure that they could have the night off. And so here we are on Zoom. I do want to thank Max behind the TVE tree for helping us this evening on Zoom. It's great to see everyone. Let us begin together singing with our cantor.
This afternoon, as Shabbat was approaching, because it got dark so quickly, we were out for a very cold walk, and we noticed one of our neighbors had put their Shabbat candles in the window, which I thought was just such a really lovely touch for this evening. And so it brought me a lot of joy to be able to walk by and see those two little candles starting to glow in the window. So I'll invite you, if you have your Shabbat candles, bring them up on the screen so we can see them, so they can illuminate our shared virtual community. Let's bring in some light together. So we'd love to see your candles as the cantor leads us in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Amen. Tradition teaches us that there are angels that accompany us into Shabbat, that help us to walk that transition from the week into this special time that is set apart, this palace in time, a space that is holy, that is protected. And so we welcome those angels in to spend these hours together with us.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashanah, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And then, of course, we welcome in the Shabbat Queen, the Shabbat Bride, to come and enter into this space with us. As the sun would set, the rabbis would go out into the fields and say, come in, welcome, welcome. That level of excitement, of ruach, of spirit that we bring to Lecha Dodi as we continue to warm up into our worship this evening.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, hishme'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Echad Odi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Lekach Elad
invite you, if you are able, to rise in body or spirit as we greet the Sabbath bride. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam v'simcha, uv'tzola, toch emunei, am segula, boi chala.
We maintain that elevated intention, that elevated posture as we move into Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
La 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. La 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 la
Take a deep breath. Just take a moment to take a deep breath. Hold on to that air that fulfills us, that fills us, that connects us to each other, that connects us to everything in the world, that touches us and we don't even notice. We don't even notice. Let it fill your lungs. As together we say the Shema, these words that unite us, each and every one.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Le'olam va'ed.
This Shabbat evening we offer a blessing, a prayer of peace and love. May it extend over every house and into every heart, for ourselves, for all our neighbors, for all the world. Together, let us join. Let there be love.
Let there be love and understanding friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu Leshalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechayim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Well, we've made it to the center of our prayer service, the part that asks us to open up ourselves and to open up our lips. Take a moment to declare some praises, some moments of gratitude as we officially enter into Shabbat together. So in our chat box, if there's something you're holding on to, a moment of gratitude coming into Shabbat that you would like to share, it brings such joy to just be able to read them together in this space. We'll join together with these sacred words of prayer. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, V'yagid Tehilatecha, Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, V'yagid Tehilatecha. Open up our lips that we may praise your name. Open up our hearts that we may feel our pain. Open up our souls to let our love make us whole, and we may praise your name, Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, V'yagid Tehilatecha, Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, V'yagid Tehilatecha. Take a few moments for some moments of private meditation. And as we come out of our private moments, we join together with words of peace, a hopeful message of peace for us, for our community, for the whole world. Let's join together. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Amen.
We take time on Shabbat to ask for healing for those who are in need. So if there's anybody who is in need of a Misha Berach prayer this evening, healing of mind, healing of body, or healing of spirit, we invite you to put their names into our chat box so we can collectively recognize them, bring their consciousness into our Zoom space, and that we can wish them a restful and quick, speedy healing. Let's join together.
Shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Of course, on Shabbat, each week we give thanks to God for sacred moments in our lives, birthdays, anniversaries, and other God-given moments. And I've been thinking about the words of Shehechianu, that we don't often just stop and be completely in the present and say, thank you, God, for allowing me to be right here, right now, in this very moment, to celebrate whatever God-given moment I've experienced. We often let them pass us by. And so to be able to say Shehechianu, to sing these words within community, certainly is a sacred blessing. But we want to celebrate with you and those who are celebrating some God-given moment this week. So if you had a birthday this week, I invite you to raise your hand so that we can celebrate with you. David Javich, I see you celebrate a big birthday this week. Happy birthday to you. Jay Prosnitz, it looks like you're raising your hand. Happy birthday. Clergy partners, you can help me. Student Rabbi Lesnar, you celebrated a birthday this week. Happy birthday to you. Am I missing anyone? Happy birthday to all of you. And let's see, anniversaries. Does anybody have a late December and a wedding anniversary? Mark and Roz Kaplan, happy anniversary to you. Isabel and Jeff Zupan, happy anniversary to you. 58 years and 60th to the Kaplans. Mazel tov to you. Anyone else? Wow. Did I miss one? Margie Nesson, I think you're 55. Mazel tov to you guys on this wedding anniversary. That is very special. And so for all of these blessings that we share each week, the ones that are right in front of us and the ones that we hold in our hearts, let us give thanks to God for being here in this presence.
Before we jump in, Cantor, I just
Yes.
want to acknowledge many families are back together again. And to see many people together is really wonderful to see. I also want to add, normally we don't celebrate graduations because we say they're not God-given, but the individual worked really hard. But one big exception is when one becomes a rabbi or a cantor, and a member of our team just completed his last exam to enter the cantor's assembly after studying at the Jewish Theological Seminary. I feel like I'm on one of those game shows, which person, which box? Will that person stand up or at least raise his hand? Josh Rosenberg completed his final exam to enter the Cantors Association, Cantors Assembly. So mazel tov for all of these things we celebrate together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Mazel tov.
So it's always good to acknowledge people. It's always good to thank lots of people. The great risk of thanking or acknowledging people is you run the risk of leaving someone out and needing to apologize afterwards. And I realized I left something important out. If you remember when we first started the service, I said I was near how many Chinese restaurants where I am living right now? One. And guess what? There's more than one Chinese restaurant. I just remembered. But when it comes to Chinese food, people are so passionate about their Chinese food that they think there's only one near them, but they might drive by 3 different spots. So I thought what we should do is in the chat room, because this is such a holiday of eating Chinese food, is you need to list your favorite Chinese restaurant and its location, because we're opening this up to your favorite Chinese restaurant in your hometown, where you live now, where you visited. I am curious. We are going to compile the list to see which one wins. I see Bernard's. I've never eaten there. I'm always curious. Oh, look at this. I see some coming up 2-3 times. Now, I'm sure if people could use, exclamation points, all caps, because there's great passion here when it comes to Chinese food. Wow, I don't think we've ever gotten such participation in the chat room ever before. How many months have we been on Zoom? All right. Thanks, everyone. We will have to run the list. So Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everyone on Zoom, hopefully enjoying a national holiday. Christmas Eve was not always a restful time for the Jewish people. In fact, historically, it was a very difficult time, especially if it fell on Shabbat, when Jews would gather in large numbers in one place, because it was often on Christmas Eve that it was a time for anti-Semitic violence and pogrom. And so I can't begin without acknowledging on this evening how lucky we truly are to live at this time and in this place, the United States of America, where we can gather so peacefully and joyfully on Zoom to celebrate Shabbat. Sometimes I think we actually forget how small we are as a people. Even in the United States, where more Jews reside than any other nation on earth outside of Israel, where there are Jewish senators and Jewish Supreme Court justices, Jewish artists and singers and philanthropists and teachers and social workers and doctors, we are still less than 2% of the population. Now, granted, in Boston, we're larger. We're actually the fourth most Jewish city in all of America. About 5% of Boston is Jewish, only behind New York, which is 11%, Miami, and Philadelphia, which is about 5.1%. We're fourth place because places like Los Angeles may have a larger Jewish population, but relative to the large population that resides within the city, it's actually a smaller percentage. So here we are in the fourth most Jewish city in America, and yet it's still very easy to feel like the other at Christmas. Even when our nation attempts to include us with greetings like Happy Holidays, or the inclusion of I have a little dreidel at the public school December concert, it's easy to feel a little bit like the other. I remember when my nephew was 3 years old, my sister went to pick him up from daycare, and the teacher said to him, "Brian, don't forget to bring home your triangle tree. Brian, don't forget to bring home your triangle tree." And so he grabbed his backpack and ran into his mother's arms and then said, "Look, Mom, we made Christmas trees today." It didn't take long, even for a 3-year-old, to realize that sometimes it's easy to feel like the other. And so tonight, I'd like to explore a theme that I actually introduced to our board last weekend about how a small people of less than 2% has survived throughout history and actually prospered to, for instance, our vibrant community that meets on Zoom today. And to explain how we survived and prospered, I'd like to begin with our Torah portion. For this week, we actually read the second book of the Torah, Exodus, chapter 1, verse 1. Ela Shemot, it says, "These are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. There was Reuben and Simeon, Levi and Judah, Issachar and Zebulun and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of Jacob were 70, for Joseph was in Egypt already." Meaning when the Jews came down to Egypt in the beginning of the book of Exodus, they were a small people amidst a very populous nation. And every time they would grow, we're told, a fear would come over the land. In verse 7, we read, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and were exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. And then there rose up a king over Egypt who knew not Joseph, and he said, 'Wait a minute. The children of Israel are more and mightier than we are. Come, let us deal with them.' And as we know, he ordered them to kill the firstborn son of the Jewish people. And then he enslaved all the Jews. It wasn't an easy existence, and we see it from the very beginnings of the birth of our people in our Torah portion this week. So how did we survive centuries of being small, every time growing, experiencing anti-Semitism? And yet how did this small people actually prosper? And for this, I want to begin with saying it's very interesting that we were able to survive because we're not a race. We didn't survive simply by procreating and passing down a gene pool. If you look at our genes, we're the result of thousands of years of mixing, conversion, wandering. If you look at the Jewish community, we're black and brown and white and every color in between. We're not a race. Instead, we've survived because of two things, which I want to explore this evening. And that is one, memory, and two, vision. So number one, memory from our Torah portion. Memory that we were slaves in the land of Egypt, meaning we're told to remember that once a time we suffered as slaves. No matter how many years it's been, we remember to care for the stranger, uplift the downtrodden, fight for justice. Remember 149 times we read in the Torah, because we are a people of memory. We experienced hardship. We need to care for others. And two, we don't just have memory, we have vision, that we were created as partners with God, and every single one of us has the power to change the world. It's an amazing visionary statement, one that has provided a self-image for the Jewish people much larger than our numbers. And this too we find in our Torah portion, with Moses, the hero of our story. It begins with chapter 2, when we read, "Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And his name was Moses." We see in our text here, Moses was the son of a man of the tribe of Levi and a Levite woman. We never learn the names of his mother or his father. Unlike almost any other ancient people, our leader has no royal lineage, no significant backstory. He is anyone. He is everyone. He is you. He is me. He is just a person. But what makes Moses special is that he has vision. In fact, he has extraordinary vision. One day he's walking along and he sees God's presence when no one else did. He saw in a burning bush that God was present in the world. And he sees a world of justice and caring and love. That's vision. And what do we feel when we feel like an other, a small people in a big world? We lean into memory and vision. That's what it means to be a Jew. And that's what I hope we'll do this Shabbat. Spend a little time this Shabbat to remember our history and to remember. Maybe you want to call up a family member and remember your family history. Or maybe you want to watch a Jewish television show or a movie. You could even watch the old 10 Commandments movie with Charlton Heston. That'll keep you busy for a while and force you to remember our history. And then when everything's closed, except for the movies and Chinese food tomorrow, I hope you'll also explore your vision. Who do you want to be next year? What do you hope to do? Who do you want to be? You see, in our tradition, we're instructed to be a chosen people. But I don't think it's about being better than others. It's to be the best of ourselves. That's what it means to choose to be the people that God intended us to be. And so I wish you Shabbat Shalom on Christmas Eve, a time to recognize a Christmas holiday celebrated by so many around the world, a time to recognize a day of rejoicing and joy and rebirth for a large part of our nation, but yet also a Jewish time to lean in to memory and vision, just as Jews have done throughout the centuries, only not as easily and joyfully as we're able to do today. And for that, I am deeply grateful. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi Asher Koach. I've been thinking about your message as I had a little sneak peek, and I'm torn all day about anthems, I'm not gonna lie. So much to share in this moment, but I'm thinking about how proud I am to be a Jew this Christmas Eve. and I'm thinking about the blessings that I feel. And so I'm going to share a song that I believe uplifts your message about counting our blessings, of what it means to be here and prosperous today. When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I'll fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
So we begin to conclude our service, joining together with the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. And so if you are here this evening in observance of a yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, or in a period of mourning, I invite you to place the names of the loved ones that we're remembering this Shabbat in the chat box. And as you do so, I invite you to rise in body or spirit. And as those names are being placed in the chat box, we've been asked to recite the name Martin Salzman, the father of Julie Kreis, who passed in the last 30 days. Also, we remember Heidi Greenstein, the mother of Gail Munshine and the grandmother of Josh Munshine, John Lifter, the father of Abby Hochberg, Milton Metzger, the father of Lou Metzger, and Sigmund Sessler, the father of Isabel Zupan. And so together, I invite the mourners among us to please rise in body or spirit as we place the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on the screen and we join together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam umei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei, Dekudsha, Brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
So announcements, anything you can think of, Rabbi Sherman?
Yes, if you want to explore that memory and that vision that you have tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, join us for Minyan and Torah study. We will be here on Zoom both this week and next week. And so I hope you will join us.
Excellent. Next week, we are only on Zoom once again for New Year's Eve. So what should people bring for Shabbat on New Year's Eve? Not Chinese food.
Party hats?
Sparkling champagne for Kaddish.
Perfect. I love it. So on that note, Kaddish, if you have a cup in front of you, sparkling or not, fruit of the vine, let us raise our cups in thanksgiving.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit. Ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziad Mitzrayim. Together. Ki vanu vacharta, ve'otanu kitashta, im kol hamim, v'shavat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Take a sip.
Take a sip. And now if you have a challah near you, David, it's good to see you. All right, let's find a challah. I see several beautiful chalot. There we go.
Beautiful.
And we continue with Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Teavon, Vicky, and Brian, you get to take the bite. And now we can say Shabbat Shalom. Let's open the microphones and wish each other Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Looks good, Mom and Dad and Liz.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Shalom,
shalom.
shalom. So good to see you.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
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 Shabbat.
Shalom.
Shalom.